and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Hello, hello.
What an intro, man. I just got it before you even say anything. That was fire.
Yeah, man, my daughter, I mean, she can really get it going. So in exchange for rent, I get media services.
She got a future in that for sure.
Well, look, man, I hope so. She's certainly got a lot of talent. In fact, I was on I guess about an hour ago with Walter Ryan and Nick Parrow, and they have this thing where they do kids art, and they're and so I put a couple of her pieces up, and all of a sudden she was on with us, and I was just sort of sitting there like, proud dad, of course, right? But yeah, it turned into an art show and not a politics show, which is not all bad, really.
We need more of that right now. That's for sure.
So how you been doing, man? It's been a while.
It's been a while, man.
Nothing's really happened in the meantime.
Luckily, it's been a very relaxing, zen, calm period in political news. A lot of downtime. No, man, I've been just working, plugging away, trying to also take a little bit of my mental health seriously. Zenning out. Got some change. Some big things happening later this year, so I kind of like less on my media appearances last couple months, more on my own work and here on Substack, and it's been great. It's been rewarding, man.
I just assumed everyone knows who you are.
Of course.
This is my guest, Ahmed Baba. He, I guess, has obviously a Substack newsletter, Ahmed Substack, I believe it is. And then aside from that, as you probably gleaned from the conversation, you might see him on MS Now every now and again. And I've seen you on where else? Somewhere
CNN,
else other than
CNN, News Nation.
I got to really comment on that, man.
I debated Scott Jennings, Kevin O'Leary. It's the whole thing.
I've seen a couple of the clips, and honestly, I don't think I could do it. I really don't. I mean, he is just so off-putting to me that it would I maybe could be on there once, and then they would just quickly, get rid of my ass, because
they need people like you on there.
Person.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the it's wild to be on there. You got to that's one of the reasons why I'm taking a break.
When you're off camera, is he tolerable, or is it just an act, or what?
What, Scott Jennings? Oh, he's very nice. He's very nice. He's a really nice guy.
I don't understand how he can be, because, man, just when I think of him, it's that smirky thing he does. They're just,
No, I mean, he's again, I think for a lot of it is, it's the debate show, and then when you're in commercial, everyone kind of hangs. Believe it or not, like Kevin O'Leary, when I was on with him, literally yelled in my face. One of the viral clips is him talking about, he said no one gives a poop about the Epstein files. And he was yelling in my face about the economy and other things. And then in the break, he was like, "Hey, check out this gadget. I just invested in this company," and throwing down with me. No, seriously. For him, he's a performer, right? He was on Shark Tank for years. So he gets cameras on, different persona, cameras on, Mr. Wonderful, cameras off, Kevin, right? So I would say a lot of the stuff you see on TV, some of the times it's performative. Some people are really about that life. Others might be performance for them.
That's really something. I don't understand it, and like I said, I mean, I'm sort of a what you see is what you get guy, and it's this is me on camera, off camera, and but yeah, they would probably be like, "Dude, you got to quit cursing. This is regular TV."
Anyway,
man.
So go ahead.
I just saw, just as we were about to come on, that the I guess, our military has escorted a ship through the Strait of Hormuz, And so now the market is up because they think, oh, everything is solved. And I've written about this, and what people don't understand is regardless of all of that, you really have to look at it's a risk thing. And there is no assurance that Iran won't just bomb one of our ships. I mean, in the strait. I mean, and so insurance companies are really what drive this in terms of, will they insure a ship coming through the Strait of Hormuz? And from what I understand, the answer, at least right now, is not really.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to, especially with the Strait. Like, it's one of those things where it seems Trump didn't fully anticipate the consequences and that the Strait could be closed down. I guess the way he was communicating about it. I mean, this is 20% of the world's oil supply. For those who don't know about, what runs through the Strait of Hormuz, and that's why your oil price, that's why your gas prices are higher. I went to the pump; it's 50 cents higher than it was last 2 weeks ago because of this war in Iran, and Iran knew they had that leverage to block off that strait. So yeah, I mean, well, that's really what happened there. And someone in the comments says, "I bet someone is making bank." That's really my key question when it comes to all of this. Is we saw basically what happened this week is that Trump got spooked by the oil markets. He got spooked by the dipping stocks, and then he goes out there and says the war will end very soon, without any changes on the ground, no details, no timeline. And then we see, guess what? Oil prices decline, stocks go up. And my question whenever this happens is, who was on the other side of that trade? Who knew about this? What insiders knew Trump was going to make this statement, and who profited from it? Because time and time again, whether it's weird trades in Polymarket about the exact date of the strikes, or whether it's this here, there clearly seems to be insider trading at a repeated measure here, like going throughout the entire administration. So, I mean, that's my key question. I think reporters need to be asking that.
I think if they ask that question, they get removed from the room, and that's why they don't ask that question. I can tell you, like you said, it's really interesting because, like it or not, Polymarket is going to be integrated into our, into financial technology. It's already happening.
Yep.
I've got mixed feelings about it, but the big problem is what you just pointed out. Right now, there's really no regulation, so clearly somebody, or I don't think it's just one person. I think it's a number of people, because I've noticed several instances like the one you point. Well, before we bombed Iran, somebody, and my bet is it's a bunch of somebody's pooling their money and just going, and yeah, they bet on like the exact time that it was going to happen. And I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. Right.
And they made a lot, yeah.
And I actually have a sort of funny clip about just the sort of the perils of the prediction market, and I'll try to dig it up while we're talking. But
yeah, I've got a take on that too. If you want me to launch into
go right ahead.
Markets, go right ahead. Dig up the clip, because I mean, my feelings on it are I've become increasingly anti prediction market, at least when it comes to regulatory need. I mean, the stuff we're seeing in this betting is insane. Like, they were betting whether, like, the time Caroline Leavitt would leave the White House press briefing room, and then she looked up at the clock. I'm not accusing her or anything. I don't know. But she looked up at the clock and was like, and then like just sprinted out the room. Like,
that's
right,
crazy.
it's like a minute before the bet. And it's like, whenever you have these prediction markets, literally reality itself is now ripe for insider trading. That's insane. That's unprecedented. That's just not, like, you can literally bet on, if you and I were adequately famous right now, for example, someone could bet whether or not Marlon or Ahmed here, whether we would say the word, pumpkin during this, right? And then that person, if they such a random word, that person could make upwards of, if they put depending on how much money they put in, right? They could make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if one of us knew, we tipped off a friend, there's no regulatory measure now. Like Polymarket, some of them prediction markets are starting to like refer people for investigation, but that's like whack-a-mole.
Well, okay. So I actually told this story on another a show maybe a couple of weeks ago, but about 10 years ago, and this isn't just coming out of nowhere. The financial markets have tried to figure out how to sort of put a dollar amount on sentiment. Okay. And the way it was introduced, and this 10 years ago, I wrote a white paper on this for a company that said that they had some sort of an engine that could integrate with trading systems. And it was really not as broad as Polymarket and Kalshi. It was just to specific stocks. So you could anticipate what the stock was going to do based on sentiment. And but it's very similar to what we're talking about. And so I knew this was coming at some point. I didn't see it coming out of left field like these apps like this. But what they've been able to do is put a dollar value on, these predictions. And when you integrate that in, I guess it was 6 months ago, the Intercontinental Exchange, it's the Intercontinental, Exchange, ICE. Get it? That was the good ICE or the not so bad ICE. They own the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange. They invested $2 billion in Polymarket about 6 months ago, maybe not even that long. So, like it or not, you're going to see this integrate into the financial system. And the reality is that it is, in a lot of ways, it's more accurate than polling because the sample set is so large. But anyway, this totally articulates the sort of the downfall or the downside of these markets. I found my video. Let's see if I can make this work. I'm going to try.
A big story you might have missed on Tuesday night, which was primary election night in 3 states, Arkansas, Texas, North Carolina.
This is the wrong one. This is the wrong one. We can talk about that too. They're talking about North Carolina and how Democrats we've got these Democrats that have been voting with Republicans and overriding the Democratic governor's veto. And so it has not gone well for them. Last Tuesday, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, and it may be worth listening to anyway. I mean, some of these incumbents lost by like 40 and 50 points.
Oh, yeah. No, people are getting punished. If
people are pissed, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in North Carolina, we had one Democrat that ran on, abortion rights, got into office, and then switched parties.
Yeah, I saw that.
This happened, I guess, a couple of years ago. Switched parties, went to the Republican side. That gave the Republicans a supermajority. I think it was in 2003. And people were just like, and now she literally helped them pass anti-abortion, legislation.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, that's fraud. Like that person is like, defrauding voters, right?
About it, because now she's a Republican, so we can't even primary her.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. We see stuff like that. People in the comments are mentioning, some others. Like I think Cinema did this. A lot of people, misrepresented themselves. Fetterman is. I think his is more related to his brain injury. Frankly, the way it's like a total personality shift, which has been really sad to watch. But also on that note, like kind of bringing it all to Iran, like would the stuff we're seeing where some Democrats are like not like full-throatedly opposed, like Fetterman, for example, some of these others who aren't full-throatedly opposing this. It's stunning to me. It's like the easiest thing. to
Look,
oppose.
I saw this morning that Hakeem Jeffries won't even commit to not helping Republicans pass this $50 billion in military funding that's coming. I just don't understand this guy. He does not really seem to me to be that politically sharp. I mean, because you're Speaker of the House. I mean, just like read the room.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
I think Jeffries reps in my district too here in Brooklyn. And
Okay.
I've been disappointed in a lot of ways with the way he's handled a lot of these fights. I think that he's kind of indicative of a broader problem sometimes with certain Democrats
Mhm.
where they're kind of too poll tested. It's like before they make a
Oh.
decision, or before they need to, as minority leader, some people are
Mhm.
like it's more or less
They got to get a consultant in the room
you don't need a
and
consultant in the room. You don't need to poll test what you need to do. You don't need to you need to have what Pelosi had was those instincts, and you need to be able to make these decisions on the fly that sometimes polling can't tell you is where the wind blows, and you need to
exactly.
and you can also take the nuggets from poll. I mean, also polling is telling you, Leader Jeffries, that this war is insanely unpopular. And I know that there's a reluctance to vote against the military or our troops, but Americans remember Iraq. Americans remember what happened, and I think right now you need to use whatever leverage you have to push for course correction here. And I know it's like one of the biggest tricks where you say, okay, because Iran is obviously an evil regime, the leaders are horrible. They want to say, oh, we don't want to be presented as anti-Iran. No, just stick on the morals. And also the U.S. just potentially, likely, given what we see in the reporting, killed over 160 young girls in a school. That's indicative of the perils of this, and just pretty easy moral opposition to the war.
It's a
no-brainer. Needs to be here. It's a no-brainer. You do not need to trip over yourselves. Moral leadership, principled leadership, non-poll tested truth.
It's really the dumbest thing I've ever seen, man. And what really gets me is, you got Trump out here saying that, well, Iran probably got a tomahawk, and and it's like this guy doesn't even realize the procedure for acquiring these weapons, or he acts like he doesn't. I mean, maybe he does, and he just said, I mean, well, we know he will say anything.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a whole lot that you got to factor in there, right?
Yeah.
They just don't really, they're just not nimble enough.
It's just you need to be a killer, and for lack of a better word, you need to be there's weakness in Trump right now. Trump is at his absolute weakest.
He is as weak as he's ever going to be.
As weak as he's ever going to be, and he's going to get even weaker after this war. Yep. And it's strike now, and strike with rhetoric. Frame this war for what it is. Every time there's a mixed message, attack it. You're not being anti-American for opposing this war. This man is saying out of the same sides of both sides of his mouth, the war's going to end very soon in order basically to manipulate markets. And then on the other side of his mouth, it's just the beginning. Saying both are true at the same time, and then also saying, "Oh well, there's 1,000 goals. The goal is to actually end the enrichment of uranium, but no, it's actually no. We want to take out their missile capability. No, actually, it's not about the missile capability. We actually want regime change. We want the people of Iran to do it. But actually, no, we don't. We want the same regime. We want it to be like Venezuela, actually, because Venezuela really worked. But no, not like Venezuela, because we don't like Soleimani's. We don't like Khamenei's son, but." Actually, maybe, the people, it's just so confusing.
It makes your head spin. I mean, talk about not being able to get your story straight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they make me feel pretty good as a kid. I was able to come up with a whole lot better, misdirection.
Yeah.
No, I did not eat that cake with frosting all on my mouth and all that. And I mean, I was better at it than those guys. So look, I found the Chris Hayes. This is an incident that happened maybe a month ago to Chris Hayes, and so it's I mean, it's funny, but it really kind of tells a story.
The day that Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE officer, I happened to be on the Colbert Show. We'd been booked like a month in advance, which is the normal thing for late night shows. I think most people know this, but all late night television is recorded. It's not live. I went over to the studio to record this interview with Stephen Colbert, like in the 5:30 range. And so then I can finish and go to my show. And as I'm walking out, having done the interview in front of a live audience, several hundred people, I get this text from an old friend and colleague of mine, a guy named Bobby Allen, a phenomenal reporter at NPR who covers tech. And he's been reporting on prediction markets, Polymarket and Kalshi, and these new sites that allow you to basically bet on any future outcome. And he sends me this screenshot. Now, as you can see, this is a market that now exists on Kalshi for what I am going to say on Stephen Colbert. You can make bets there on, like, will I say Donald Trump? Will I say affordability? Will I mention China or Russia? And I was sort of shocked by this. I didn't realize really that you can bet on something as niche and obscure as like what I say on Stephen Colbert. But there was a $22,000 market, meaning like there's like $22,000 worth of bets happening on this. And of course, the crazier thing about it to me was that this wasn't a future event. This had happened. We had recorded it. I, Stephen Colbert, the production staff, and all the people in the building know what I said or didn't say. So I was sort of shocked by this, and Bobby and I were texting about it. And then I guess what happened is Kalshi has a homepage, and sometimes they feature random bets, and they featured this bet on the homepage. And that market, which when Bobby first sent it to me was like at $22,000, goes to this. $800,000, almost $900,000. Like close to $1 million market on what I will say on Colbert when it has been pre-recorded. Here's the thing about this, right? Sean Patrick Maloney, who used to be a Democratic congressman, is no longer in office. He just announced he's going to be the head of like the trade group for these sort of prediction markets. And the argument he made is that this is sort of the social utility, right? The benefit of this is that we can figure out what's going to happen. We get information aggregated through betting markets.
I know from my time in Congress that noise does not equal knowledge. And when truth gets buried, power shifts further away from everyday people to those who profit from confusion. But what if you could have better insight into what the future holds? Prediction markets, exchanges where people trade on the outcome of future events, existed for centuries.
Okay, maybe that's true in optimal scenarios. But like, what possible social utility, what possible utility whatsoever can be gained from a $900,000 betting market on a thing that's happened? And obviously, I'm not going to go in and place a bet or like tip my friends off to it. That would be unethical. But a lot of people would. And for a lot of the bets that are on Kalshi, it just seems like these are essentially opportunities for people with inside information to monetize their inside information. That's why you've got this story about a big whale that entered into one of the betting markets on a Venezuela operation the night before it was announced, $400,000 bet. You had a moment the other day where there was like a bet on how long the White House press conference would go. And that she wrapped up like 30 seconds before some crucial bet benchmark. And we've already seen how this is going in the sports world, right? We just had a big indictment the other day about point shaving and price fixing on, throwing games.
So anyway, it goes on, but you get the message. It's so the thing that I, coming from my background, which is, finance, Wall Street, all that stuff. This is the same kind of shit that happens in the stock market all the time. And so when people, and I'm not necessarily an advocate for or against, I just know that it's happening and it's gonna happen. But when I hear people say, oh, that's nothing but gambling, well, guess what? I hate to break it to you. All this shit is gambling. If you have $100 and you go and, go on Robinhood and buy or sell or short or whatever you're gambling. I mean, there is a utility to it. There's an intrinsic value, but you're gambling. You're betting, you're putting that money in the hope that you'll get more money back. You don't want to lose, obviously. So anyway, I just thought it was a really interesting story, and it, to me, is more of a story about how dishonest this administration is, because it's them.
Yeah,
It's them.
exactly. It's and that's the thing. That example from Chris is like what we talked about earlier, like what we might say during this episode, and now when it comes to administration, like I pulled up a CNBC article. They're talking about there was a multi-million-dollar bet on whether or not the supreme leader would be killed or ousted, and that if you're in the administration, if you're even a low-level staffer that like was privy to this, or there's so many other people. It's not just like Witkoff or Rubio or Trump just doing it.
We saw this stuff happen. What was it with back on Liberation Day last April?
Yeah,
it wasn't in the prediction markets. I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene that just had like a short,
Yeah. There's all that stuff too.
A short on something that would benefit her because once everybody saw that the tariffs were going to basically be for the entire planet, the market fell like 20%, just like that.
Exactly. And that's one of the key questions. Why, like, what happened with Trump's, for those who are joined later, maybe didn't see the big top of this, like the Iran, the very soon comment, when there's no change on the ground, there's nothing happening, the markets are rising, even though Trump and the administration has made no on the ground differences in how they're approaching Iran strikes or Iran war.
So give me some background on that, because I saw that he said something that manipulated the market, but I just had a full morning and I didn't really get to dig into it.
Yeah. So it happened. So basically late yesterday, basically right before the stock market was closing, Trump came out he actually leaked to a CBS reporter, hop on the phone and said, the war is going to end.
Wait. A CBS reporter, of course.
Yeah, I believe it was a CBS reporter. I just want to.
No. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I'm trying to double check that it was a CBS.
That's on brand if it was CBS.
But I do know that they leaked to a reporter, and basically Trump went and said the war is going to end very soon, and the market shot up right before the close. They shot up this morning again. Oil was at about between 100 120.
Yeah,
per barrel. Then it went down. So there was an immediate reaction to his comments, even though everyone knows he's a well-known, well-documented liar, number one. And number two, there's no evidence on the ground this is changing. And the rest of the administration is contradicting what he's saying. They're talking about this is just the beginning. They're saying, like Hegseth today was saying,
this war is not going to be over for months.
Well, exactly.
And the reason is not, one of the reasons is we're not going to get to decide when this is over. I mean, think about it. This is just really the most slapstick kind of you're bombing the supreme leader, and the guy who ends up taking his place is like orders of magnitude worse. It's his son. You've just killed his dad, his mom, his wife, his cousin, his brother. I just don't see how you're going to negotiate with this guy. He ain't trying to hear it.
I mean, why would the thing is, if you're Iran, and as like the supreme leader who was just killed had agreed to the JCPOA, so they agreed to the Iran deal with Obama. You were complying with it by every objective measure. Every time I talk about their complying, get all this right wing heat. We saw Trump's own State Department issued a report in 2018 saying that Iran was complying with the Iran deal. The UN's atomic watchdog said they were complying with the deal. Trump tore it up anyway because of vibes and because he hates Obama, and then puts us on this path to where we get to now. If you're Iran, you're thinking, my only option is to pursue a nuclear weapon because they will not live by their rules. I mean,
there's the proof.
There's the proof.
If you look at that,
and there's the proof. And Iran, if you're Iran, and as horrible as I am, and I'm totally opposed to the regime, but if you're even a rational actor, you're thinking, if you're Iran, you're looking at North Korea and Kim Jong-un. They're not getting attacked for their repressive stuff they're doing to their people, because guess what? Young Kimmy Kim over there has got a nuke, right? He's got weapons, and then that's why he's fine. You see,
and we ain't gonna screw with that guy.
Putin saw what happened to Gaddafi in Libya. All these despots see what happens to these other people who don't have nuclear weapons, and they think, if I'm Iran, I'm thinking, okay, this might have proliferation might be the only option, and that is why. What is the incentive to negotiate when you know Trump won't keep his word on anything?
Well, it's not just Trump. It's kind of America in general. We don't do well honoring treaties and agreements. And Trump has just taken it to a different level. But, you know, just to put this back, I mean, look at this. This is, if you look at the left,
Yep,
that's kind of where Iran was when Obama was president. And then that little space in the middle is the JCPOA.
mm-hmm.
They were complying with it. And then you get Trump. He comes in 2018, says, oh, that's a bad deal. And now look. So, I mean, this is just literally just human behavior, right? If you and I agree to something and, you know, one of us just sort of reneges on it, and then I come back, what, a week later and want to, like, you know,
You're not going to trust.
I mean, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
You're not going to trust. And that's just like natural. And then on top of that, they're an ideological regime. So it's not like Venezuela, where it's a different situation. This is a religiously ideological extremist regime. So they have that.
Mm-hmm.
They already have, one of their slogans is basically "Death to America." And you're right to say America generally.
That's a slogan.
Well, I mean, pretty much they use it, right? So it's like now you want to give them more reason to say, and it's like also on that point. I'm glad you brought up the America generally, because people in the chat, by the way, we're on StreamYard, so I've been able to see as much of your comments, but I look down and try to see what I can. But you guys are, first off, thank you for everybody commenting here. Keep it up. Smash that like button while you're there. Boost the video on the algorithm. Y'all are saying some really cool stuff. Also, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button to both me at Ahmed Baba News. Become a paid subscriber if you can, and also to Marlon, because we're out here doing independent journalism and really trying to get that working. So thank you guys for being here. But yes, on this note, on Iran, sorry, you want to join in on that point?
No. I'm sitting here and I'm going, you're a much better host than I am, man.
Oh, there's the housekeeping.
I just jumped in like, let's talk about Iran. I forgot all we do need your support, people.
No, yeah. But I mean, but no, because you're straight to business, man. You came here to talk that talk. But yeah, on this Iran stuff, it's a good point on America, because now if you're any ally or adversary and you're looking at America, you now have to plan for a Democratic United States of America or a Republican, because any deal made right now could be torn up by the next administration, or any, let's say that's why the next president's gonna have to do so much repair, because let's say a Democrat comes in and it's like, oh, they try to pull an Obama after Iraq and say, we're gonna heal. We're sorry for all that. We're actually and we
tried that. We
tried that with Biden, right? And then guess what? Here comes we elect a lunatic again. We decide, so if you're looking at America, Mark Carney's speech is still one of the most important ones given by a foreign leader in this era, to recognize, unfortunately, America right now is schizophrenic. America's bipolar. America can't decide what it wants to be. America, 1 second is this, 1 second it's that. And until we get our own shit together, America, the damage Trump has done just psychologically to how the world will approach any deals with us is it might take decades to undo.
I honestly was going to say that exact thing. It is probably something I won't even live to see. It's going to be generations, at least one generation before, assuming that that's the decision we make. But, if I'm, a NATO partner, for example, okay, they didn't know Trump. He fooled everybody in 2016. And then we do this shit again. I mean, come on, man.
You could argue it was an anomaly before, even back like.
Yeah, before. And then you look, you had Hillary Clinton, very polarizing. I know a lot of Democrats who would never really vote for her. Some of them probably did. A lot of them, maybe they just didn't vote for president.
Would have been so much better off with her.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because this is, there's just so much to unwind with Trump. And Yeah, you know, I have never wished harm on on anybody, but if something happened, I don't think I would be upset. I mean, it, I hope that doesn't make me a bad person.
I mean, I think
But
people just want,
I just want the guy to be gone.
I hope he
He
lives.
can-
I hope he lives a long life out of office. I hope he's out of
Man,
power.
you're better than me.
I hope
'Cause
he. I hope he. I hope.
I don't want him to. Well, if
I
he
want him
died
to be
next
out
year,
of.
he
I
would
want
have
him.
lived a long life.
I
He's
want
what,
him to
he's
be
80,
out of
so
office and watch as we unwind his legacy, as Obama has been forced to watch, unfortunately.
man,
And I
let me
can only
just say
imagine the
this.
pain Obama is in. Go ahead.
Let me just say this. So, I read a lot of comic books and all that kind of stuff, watch the Marvel shit. And when you get one of these arch villains, I don't remember if it was like DC, like with Superman, where they had these villains and they just put them on a planet, like they weren't even on Earth, right? They had these guys like in a contained something, and that's where if we could come up with something like that for Trump, because I'm telling you, he's not going to act right,
Well,
regardless of where he is.
I think those kind of areas were called the equivalent here would be prisons. I mean, that's where he was headed.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was describing. Yeah, he needs to be like in a cell.
That's where he was headed before this. And again, I think it's important.
I don't know what you call a place like that. But.
And again, that's what we really need. And unfortunately, because the Supreme Court's ruling, we won't get that. And Merrick Garland, maybe if he had pursued this a year earlier, we wouldn't have been in the situation we had been in, because during the primary, Homeboy would have been in his January 6th trial, which he was certainly going to be convicted in. That case was so airtight. I covered it. I read I wrote about article.
Oh yeah, you did. You did.
I covered the indictment for the Independent at the time and all the January 6th hearings. And like this man was headed to a conviction in the January 6th trial. And if it happened a year earlier, again, Merrick Garland, a lot of frustration with a lot of things that happened in that administration, but Merrick particularly, you can't. It's like the lesson that needed to be learned from Reconstruction. Lincoln gets killed, and then now you're not, and then Andrew Johnson starts to slowly roll back, not slowly, pretty quickly roll back the occupation of of the South.
Starts giving the slave owners compensation.
Sharecropping starts popping up. You don't give the acres and a mule to the Black Americans that deserve it. And then you roll and then you roll back all that progress that was made. There was like thousands of Black officials that won elections in the immediate aftermath of Reconstruction before Jim Crow. So it's like now you need accountability. And I know Trump is going to be immune from it. The administration should not. I guess he might try to pardon everybody, but there's some state crimes here that have been done. There's some state level stuff that I think it's just impossible to not prosecute the depravity that we've seen here. And also those Venezuela strikes, the ones in the Atlantic, the ones when they're just judicially murdered. That's murder.
That's just murder. Yeah,
that's just murder, frankly. And so it's like there's so many things to unwind here, and the next administration has to be ruthless with this. And I think they have to not only hold people accountable, but rebuild the federal government and then pursue legislation. I think one of the most radical things that a Democrat could do is like pursue all this stuff, heal it, like use executive power to heal all this, and then push legislation to curtail their own power afterwards. Like expand the republic.
The interesting thing is that, and again, we gotta get some Democrats in there that are not afraid to initiate the fight instead of always reacting to something that Republicans did. And the minute the Supreme Court ruled that this wasn't a ruling specifically just for Donald Trump, they basically said the president can do whatever the fuck he wants to do as long as he's doing it in the course of his office. And I'm sitting here looking at Joe Biden going, dude, you're the president. They've just said you pretty much got unlimited authority. And when I think it wasn't Kagan, I think it was Sotomayor who raised the issue of, so if you thought like a competitor or was a threat to national security, could you just go kill the guy? And the answer wasn't really no.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was one of those stunning
So,
moments where it was like,
I'm sitting
because it
here
would be a
going,
part of their official duties. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad Joe Biden didn't order the killing.
I mean, but they said it was okay.
But that's the thing. It's just like, I think like you're right on the point about the Supreme Court expanding power, because
and Biden didn't use any of it.
And I think like what they need to do, what the next president has to do, is like basically go through and just use this power they've been given for good. Reconstruct the entire executive branch back to where it was, re-implement what needs to what was taken from us. And I see, you got this quote up here.
Yeah, I just saw that in the room. I thought it was an interesting comment, and I hear this a lot. Just that I think the problem we have, just sort of in a general sense, first of all, we're so insular. Most Americans rarely leave their state, let alone the country, and we have these perceptions of Cuba is bad and nothing's good there. And that's not necessarily the case. And I think one of the things that we're finding out with all of this disruption that's going on, America's really showing its cards in terms of how we have, and this stuff isn't new. It's just that now we got social media and we can see what that school looked like in Iran, right? That was right next to a military facility. And so when Trump comes around and says, "Oh, we didn't do that, Iran did it," everybody's like, "No, bro."
No, I'm glad
we can see what happened.
I just got to talk about the school for a second, because
it's distressing, man. I'll be honest.
That's been really eating me alive, because these are over 160 girls that would be alive today if Trump didn't win the election.
Oh, and some teachers.
And some
there were like, what, a dozen teachers?
And then teachers, and
can you just imagine? I'm sorry to interrupt.
But I was going to say,
school day.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like my main point I was going to make is like some people are saying, it was near a military base. Okay, Quantico in Virginia, near where I grew up. If Iran striked and took out a school that happened to be near Quantico in a war that was no explanation on their part, really, same course of events here, meandering justifications, and they took out 160 American girls and teachers and nearly 200 people, all the individual lives matter, lives exploded, those families are destroyed. That would be one of the biggest.
We would initiate Article 1.
It would be bigger than Pearl Harbor. It would be like 9/11 level frustration, but worse, because it's just all kids, right? And we would be in World War III immediately the second that happened. And you're trying to argue to us now that this was somehow, I don't know if they were using Claude. No wonder Anthropic had to back out. I don't know what they were doing with their targeting, but they just this is somehow justified because we dehumanize Middle Eastern lives, or it's okay. The war should have ended the day after that. We got to put our arms down. This is insane. With the devaluation.
Well, you got an administration that's never going to say they're sorry for anything that they do. They're never going to admit that they made a mistake about anything, right? And so it's just,
I know.
It's just honestly, and I'm not going to try to, opine on somebody's moral soul or any of that stuff, but I would not want to personally hang around people like this, because there's something really just antisocial about the way that they behave. And I guess Trump, the guy's got a talent for finding these people, because it's just beyond anything I've ever seen. I've never seen, I heard somebody else say this the other day. I cannot recall a war of any kind that America got involved in where the public, at least on the front end, wasn't with the government. 9/11, I mean, we weren't looking to be in a 20-year war, but when 9/11 happened, I didn't vote for George Bush, but I was in New York. I saw the towers come down, and hey, he was our guy. I was flying the flag. Everybody, we all came together. This outfit is something different, man.
No, totally different beast. And you're right to even compare it to that war, because at the time, even, as flawed as it was and as many lies as we were told by the Bush admin, there was a process. They made speeches. They talked to the American people. They went
tried
to the
convince
UN.
us.
They went to the UN.
They were lying.
They were lying, but they went to the UN. They built a coalition. And then even after all that, that still led to the destruction that came. So what do you think could happen here? Like, it's just what we don't know what they've wrought here, and it's like the American people are not behind it. And they're going to increasingly become like and that's the thing. The highest support for a war is always at the beginning. It never goes up. It doesn't usually go up. It tends to go down. And right now, if this is as high as support for the Iran war we're going to see, then it's only going to go down. Like, Vietnam, again, like these wars, sometimes they get some people that back in the beginning, but over time, when the destruction comes and more American lives are lost. And again, like the fact that like it hasn't drawn universal moral outrage that these girls were killed just because they're brown and in some far off land. It drives me insane. Like I just can't. It's been really, this thing's just been rattling me, and it's really radicalizing me into like being.
It's a depressing time to be an American.
Fully anti-war.
To be honest with you,
like it's like
and
no wars unless
I love my country, right? But it's sort of like, if one of my sons starts like just doing criminal shit over and over, I love him, but come on, dude, you got to change or you're going to go to jail.
Well, no, yeah. And it's like patriotism for America.
I want to hit this comment for just a second, because I think, and this is, again, the media doesn't explain this stuff. There are all different kinds of oil, right? And, you got your light sweet crude, your Brent North Sea, your West Texas Intermediate. And I used to watch all this stuff when I was a bond trader when I first started out. And so, you look at all these things, but the reason that we aren't just, getting Venezuelan oil is that it's a very dirty grade of oil. It's kind of like, I believe, similar to the oil that comes from Canada, that just has a whole lot of crap in it. And it can only be used for certain things. And on top of that, the location of where the oil is in a difficult place to get to. Mm-hmm. And the refineries are not in the same place. So it's not like just walking up and turning the spigot on. And on top of that, the U.S. countries that were there that got booted out, okay, they've already been to court. This is like 20 years ago, I guess. They've already been to court. They've already gotten settlements. They've already written their losses off. They are not looking to jump back into Venezuela just because Trump says, go ahead and do it. And even if they did, you're talking a decade before we ever had something usable out of that. And that's the interesting thing with Trump. He constantly makes these big pronouncements like we're going to rekindle the manufacturing industry. Well, these are not just pop-up, facilities. I mean, they take a long time to build it, assuming that someone even wanted to do it. And so we've actually lost manufacturing jobs since in this last year. And the reason is because of his tariffs. It's making a lot of the machinery and the things that they have to buy cost more money. They never think of the next step, they don't think we'll think of the next step.
Well, it's just when you are in an administration where your loyalty is prized above everything else, then you're not going to get pushback. You're not going to get people in there that say this is a bad idea or what is the unintended consequence of this potential move. And that's what we got here. I mean, apparently General Kane, when it comes to Iran, was giving some warnings about what could potentially go wrong, but he still went through with it. And you have all these other people in the administration that are, Rubio is also not front facing of the war, but when he goes out there, he goes out there and he tripping over himself. And then you notice Vance is very absent, by the way. Do you notice
Vance
that?
ain't trying to get involved in this. Vance is like, I'm gonna let them go ahead and sink.
Yeah,
he's looking ahead.
He'd rather just defend, killing American citizens like Renee Good. But it's just this administration, like, people need to start getting ready for the fact that this is going to become a very toxic administration that people in the future are going to try to distance themselves from. Like people with the Bush admin, Obama 08 one, there was like a lot of anti-Bush sentiment. People are going to be trying to wipe the stank off of Trump from them because they let this man go so far. And then in 2028, Vance and Rubio are going to have to try to answer for the things in the administration they were part of. Right now, they're acting like they're the two heirs. But I'm telling you, they keep this up. You might see Dark Horse and Marjorie Taylor Greene win that primary. Like I'm telling you, we don't know for sure what's going to happen there. So I really think they're basically bottom overall, is that this administration is 100% on their weakening. All this stuff happening is coming from just desperation. And the midterms are headed to get absolutely shellacked by Democrats. I don't think he's going to be able to steal it. He might try, but just like Netanyahu, they think they need this war for their own expansion of their power. But I think overall it's going to backfire. And unfortunately, a lot of people are dying in the process of their mistakes, and it's horrific. But overall, Trump is weakening, and his presidency is flailing out of control right now.
Well, when your strategy is like, screwing with elections, well, this is the part that I don't know why reporters don't ask this question. Because when, you get these guys and they're talking about election integrity. So do you think your win was possibly interfered? But I mean, it's like, okay, so Democrats were so fucking smart that they did something with the 2020 elections, but they still let a whole bunch of Republicans win. No, it's the stupidest argument.
Doesn't make any sense.
You got a ballot. If I'm able to change the votes, I'm changing all of them.
No,
I might leave a few just so it doesn't look so bad, right? But okay, if I'm getting rid of Trump, I'm damn sure getting rid of Tom Cotton.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
None of it makes any sense, and it's just frustrating. Like, you're right. That's the question that needs to be asked.
Argument to me.
It's just like,
if you think the election was rigged in Georgia, well, a Republican governor won. So what are you saying? I mean, is the whole thing illegitimate or just the guys you don't like?
The facts don't matter. They create and invent their own narratives. They have propaganda arms that push those narratives. Like right now, we're watching Fox News go full 2003 Iraq War, propaganda. And then, but it's fracturing other MAGA media. But yeah, the lies about the elections are insane. Everything, it's pure disinformation. Like, I don't know if you've seen the show Andor from Star Wars, where, they talk about how like the lies are.
I have got to watch this show because everybody keeps telling me about it. And I watched, how you watch the first episode and there's just so much stuff. And it was good. And then something else came along and, dude, I don't know. It's probably some gangster show.
Let me tell you, this is one of the best shows of all time, in my opinion.
Really?
And like, even if you don't like Star Wars at all, like I'm personally happen to be a Star Wars fan, but like,
oh yeah,
I am. Are you okay? If you're a Star Wars fan, then oh my god, you're gonna love it. But basically, it is the single best piece of anti-fascist art of this entire generation. Like, I think it's Andor. I think it's going to be looked back on. People in the chat saying Andor is exceptional, and if you haven't seen it, especially season 2,
I keep hearing it, and
especially season 2, there's a reason why you're seeing protest signs with people using it, because there are literally scenarios that happened in season 2. Minneapolis was being compared to something that happened in the end of season 2.
Wow.
There's like this guy who writes a manifesto in Andor where people are using those quotes for their activism. It's kind of like how in Rogue One, or like after The Force Awakens, the resistance is, people don't really remember. Everyone had their Twitter obvies, had the resist, like the resistance was named after The Force Awakens resistance. Like, people kind of forget that, like, that's what happened.
Yeah, on Twitter, man, it was like you said, people would have like the Star Wars stuff because so I would definitely watch it, because it's really gonna
it really dives into the bureaucracy of the authoritarianism in the empire, which we see very similar stuff happening here, and then what it takes to actually oppose it. So it's really good, a really good watch, and it's just great television. But overall, like, it's just something that's relevant to today, because one of the things they say in it is that, like, they don't even bother to lie well anymore.
They're not. These guys really are some of the worst liars I've ever. I mean, it's embarrassing.
It's insane.
It's embarrassing. And here's another thing. And, people of a certain age who are Black will identify with this. When I was coming up, so I was, 10 years old in 68, so you
no way, Marlon.
I grew up
over a day over 50. What are you talking about?
All right. Thank you. But no, it was just there was just such a focus on, you had to be better. Right. And I mean, some of my old aunties and uncles, and they would be like, you don't embarrass. It was almost like The Godfather. You don't embarrass the family.
Yeah.
But number two, they would just straight up say, look, white folks expect you to fail. They don't expect you to know anything. They don't, so when I'd be acting all, doing some silly shit, they see, no, you're not going to go out here representing us doing that kind of shit. And now to see these people that just don't know anything about the jobs that they have. And I mean, you could just pull a name out of a hat. Yesterday you had Alina Hava out here talking about trying to criticize Kamala Harris, about something that she said at Jesse Jackson's funeral, and she calls him Reggie Jackson. And then well, I'm not racist. And it's like, yeah, but you keep doing racist stuff.
I'm telling you, man, like, all those attacks on DEI was projection, because they knew they had no merit. They knew they had no talent. They knew they were not qualified for their own jobs. And then they go ahead and take it out on us and say Black people are the ones that aren't qualified, when in reality, Black people, this, especially, coming up, longer than me, like, you have to be the best to get into any of these rooms that we have been in. You have to like work 3 times as hard. Prep I do before I go on any, like, you have to be.
You got to be buttoned all the way up
and know your shit. And there are so many. And again, like, I'm not, talking about the whole race, of course. I've married into a white family, Jewish family. But, like, I'm saying, like, there are so many people that aren't people of color that are mediocre as hell, in especially in the Trump administration. These high up individuals that don't know shit. You had Lindsay Halligan had never seen
never pled a case.
She didn't know. Reporting was she didn't know what room. She went in the wrong room when she was about to indict James Comey, from what I read the first time. And then
that is like,
look, what do you know?
That alone is just so instructive.
So it's like, these people, they're unqualified. They have no character. And that's why everything they're doing is backfiring.
I mean, dude, let me tell you something. And I say this having flunked out of college, which, by the way, my ass couldn't go home. It was like such a big fucking deal. It was like, I got an aunt that's one of the first Black principals of a school and of a multiracial school in Arkansas. I got another uncle who's also a principal of a school, and they're looking at me like, what, what's up, dude? And it was an embarrassment. Now, I mean, now it's a different thing, but I gotta say, I made up for it when I got in finance. But just understand, there was no DEI. There was no, in fact, when I got hired, and I got hired by one of the largest firms not located on Wall Street in Arkansas, it took forever for them to hire me because I was qualified. But then again, I'm Black. And so I got just sort of shuttled from one interviewee to another because somebody had to pull the trigger and nobody wanted it in case it didn't go right, you know. And I ended up working there for 10 years. But I'm just saying, I was so qualified by the time I got to those guys, they had to hire me.
Of
right.
course. And that's,
But it wasn't because they were trying to get a black guy, because they didn't have any.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's how it usually is, man. And on that note, I'm glad you bring up, that point, because right here, D. Batiste here in the chat saying Hegseth is the biggest downgrade from General Austin. Lloyd Austin, I got to point out, one of the most underrated people in Biden's administration. If you read Woodward's book, War, it talks about how Austin basically almost single-handedly prevented Russia from pursuing potentially nuclear threats. Like he had like a really stern call. Like Austin was steady hand. He was incredibly competent and qualified. And then you have the nerve of Hegseth, weekend news anchor. Not that news anchors are bad, but like, news anchors should not be running
a news anchor, maybe, but not
should not be running the Defense Department. And then to be the joke of a man that he is up there, constantly just sitting there, just defaming like black people basically as much as he can, talking about we don't want that woke stuff. We know what you're really saying, Hegseth. You're saying basically you're going to replace that black Department of Defense that we had, right? And you're going to do things right. And then immediately out the gate, he does Signalgate.
This is it right here, man.
And then right here,
So Ketanji Brown Jackson graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Radcliffe College and cum laude from Harvard Law School, where she was an editor of the Law Review. 20 years of experience as a lawyer, 10 as a federal judge when she got nominated for the Supreme Court. And they just were so disrespectful to this lady. Yeah. And they called her a DEI hire. And then you look at Mark Wayne Mullen over here, and I'll just read what it says. He's got a high school diploma and a 2-year community college degree in construction management. No military, no law experience, no law enforcement experience. He's not a lawyer. He's a cattle rancher. And he gets to be head of freaking Homeland Security, dude. And that just tells the story right there. Does it not?
It tells the full story. If you're loyal to Trump, it does not matter if you have zero qualifications. Loyalty is the only qualification.
I think I'm covered, at least with my kids. I've got one that went to trade school and he's a welder. He's doing okay. I got another one that is, he's in the entertainment business. He's in a band. He does okay. Wouldn't have been my recommendation, but hey, he was in a movie a couple of months ago. So you know what?
That's awesome.
Good for him. And then my daughter is just finished and got her degree as in art school. And she's probably gonna make more money than all of us. And then my youngest son is halfway through NC State. Electronic engineering or computer engineering, rather. He'd kill me if I didn't get it right. But, they're all out there doing their thing and working hard to be good at something. And these are the examples that they have it's amazing that one of them isn't just a freaking arch criminal. Look at the example.
Yeah. And and that's one of the problems where it's like, these Republicans have backed a president who they wouldn't tell their children to emulate.
Dude, he would not babysit my daughter. I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm saying. Like these people know. Like I debate a lot of these Republicans on TV and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I know if I were to ask, I know none of them have ever argued to me that Trump's a good person. Number one, and also number two, if I were to ask them, would you tell Trump? Would you tell your kids to behave the way that
be like
whatever X example of Trump, they would say no. And yet they back him because the Republican Party let him hold them hostage. They let them take him over. And then they've dragged us down to this place. And we can obviously, spend a whole other episode talking about just the Republican Party ceding ground to Donald. But it's really unfortunate where we're at. But again, I always land on a positive where I just think that in the end, it's going to backfire, and maybe the country needed to see the bare ugly face of this attempted authoritarianism
I think
before we move forward.
Well, we're definitely in the find out stage, but I think we're finding out a whole hell of a lot more than we thought we were gonna. Because I'll be honest, I did not have him, going to war with Iran on my bingo card. But Ahmed, man, I just look. It's when I hook up with you, dude, the hour just goes by like that.
It really does, man.
It really does.
Such good conversations.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to do this more often, and I hope everyone, got something out of it. And by all means, if you're not already, follow this man, subscribe to his newsletter. If you can become a paid subscriber, please do, and ditto for me. But the interesting dynamic of where we live, just where we're at right now, is that the trust quotient has moved from, traditional media, CBS, those guys, and it has sort of migrated. People have figured out, well, I don't have to like the network, but I like Ahmed and I like Marlon and I trust them. And I don't think they're lying. And, we're definitely not grifting. I'm sitting in the kitchen. So
yeah,
it's not like we got some big grift going. No, I do
I'm glad
this.
you brought that up because,
well, I'm doing this because, fortunately I'm at an age where nobody will hire me. I'm dude, listen, Wall Street, I could never go back, because now that I've been out of that bubble, I just see the world a little bit differently. I'm not ashamed of what I did for 30 years, because it informs my ability to talk to people about it now in a way that, they can understand what I'm talking about. And I can talk about a lot of these things just from experience. And it's so, for example, and I'm going to actually, we'll wrap up, but I'm actually going to do a show or a something on my newsletter about this. I don't know how Trump was alive during what they call the tanker wars that happened in the late 70s, the energy crisis stuff. That's when I first got in the business, early 80s. So when they started talking about Iran, I'm like, no, y'all don't want none of that. Right.
Exactly.
Anyway.
No, I want to just add on to the independent journalism stuff you're saying, because people in the Substack chat, they're saying, you guys are great. Discovered you a few years ago. Thank you. Both have integrity, great conversation. Thank you guys all for watching. It's because of you guys, we're all able to keep doing this work. On your way out to, as we wrap up, hit the like button, because it boosts the post and the algorithm afterwards. And also just got to say, Marlon, you're doing something great here. You're also going to be expanding and trying to, make something bigger here. And I've been trying my best. I've been thinking a lot about just infrastructure for independent journalism, even more broadly. And as you know, I've been taking a little bit of a I'm still doing a lot of Substack stuff, but mainstream, doing a little bit more of a recalibration, and just thinking, I keep going back to this, and I hope the audience hears it too, is that Kamala Harris raised $1 billion, grassroots money, mostly in 2024. After the election, the money goes away, right? Could you imagine if even a fraction of that amount is raised or dedicated or pushed towards independent progressive media or independent-minded media?
So I take that even a step further. So this is the difference, in my view, of the way Republicans operate and the way Democrats operate. I was talking to one of our friends that and he's telling me about, basically, Republicans subscribe to all of their far out folks that are on Substack. They got budgets. $50 is nothing, and Democrats, I'll give you a personal example. I'm in North Carolina. A couple of weeks ago, I spent several hours digging up, the congressional or the Black Caucus here in my state. Who are the people? Who are the LGBTQ group, all within the House of Representatives. And I emailed them, all of them, told them who I was, what I'm doing. Here's my background. Look at my stuff. I'll give you a discount because you're, public servant. I never heard back from one, not even one. Not even one, dude. And I have to be honest, I was a little surprised by that. But for whatever reason, I have not figured it out. Democrats, they just don't, I won't say they're not paying any attention, but they do not see what I'm trying to build. And I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag. I've got a big announcement coming at 7 tonight. Jump on if you can. But it's around the idea that you just raised, infrastructure. Yeah, I got a phone. I can get online and do all kinds of stuff, but we need to simulcast. This is something that I just sort of, instituted. But I came to the conclusion that we can't wait on these guys to help us. And, I looked at what Substack did for Barry Weiss, the guy that one of their biggest investors, venture capital, invested personally in the free press, personally. Okay. Well, we can't wait on those guys. So I just figure I'm just going to get out here and just, I'm from the world of risk.
No, I mean, that's no,
and I'm just
doing,
like, I'm just going to try it and see what the reception is. And even if I fail, nobody can say I didn't try.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's what I'm glad you're, doing that and making more of a collective effort on these subscriptions. And I've been trying to think about just even bigger picture too, like how to direct funds. Like I've been thinking about fundraising too in the future. Basically there's like, you're right. There's this discrepancy. I mean, I'm not the people watching this. You guys watching this all.
Well, no, look, I'm talking about the.
I know you're talking about
politicos.
Politicos. But I just want to finish the. I think like the discrepancy, especially with money, people with money on the left and the right is insane. Like every liberal billionaire wants to run for office and not put their head down and just build infrastructure for independent media.
Dude,
like Tom Steyer, great. I'm glad you're running for office, but there are a lot of media
so much more
that you could prop up, and like Bezos was not a real liberal. So it's like, there is so much money on the right. And I've been telling people too, dude, I get sponsorship requests from right-wing content, from right-wing organizations, more. First off, zero from liberal organizations, but I have a great partnership with Ground News. They're great. But like other than that, right-wing people keep hitting me up. And I'm like, you've seen my content? And then I realize this is how they get you. This is how they convert you. Every random black conservative you see out there on YouTube or that suddenly starts getting all this new podcast equipment and they start talking right-wing stuff. That's because they get bought. There's money on the right that there's not here on the
Candace Owen is a prime example.
Candace Owen. If I tomorrow said, you know what, Marlon? Trump has a point. Trump's great. Trump's the greatest guy who's ever lived. He's buff. He's ripped.
I'd be like, show me your bank statement.
You know how much I would get flooded money.
Man.
And the thing is, that's why you got to stand on business, stand on your principles. And that's why you got to back people who do. People who are watching, support them financially.
Absolutely,
if
man.
You can, because there are not enough. There are a lot of people on Substack, but a lot of those people who get the subs are already rich. So like support the other people as well, because this is some real stuff happening.
Well, you think about it, man. Media. Just on paper, a black ex-Wall Street trader, you would think that I would be conservative.
Potentially, yeah, definitely.
Right? You would just randomly, if you didn't know me, you would not expect me to be a freaking, progressive. I have converted some of my Wall Street friends. I had one of them last night tell me he would vote for AOC for president. I almost spit my beer out. This dude didn't even like her a year ago. But I educated him. And all we're saying is this. I don't know exactly what's going on with the Democratic intelligentsia, all these. Well, first of all, the consultants just have them like this, and those are the guys they're used to paying, and they don't recognize the look, I'm not huge. I've got, I don't know, 17,000 people that subscribe to my newsletter. But the reason I'm doing what I'm doing and the reason we're simulcasting is that I don't want, one day we could look up and Substack could just say, y'all, sorry,
Yeah.
and it could suddenly turn into, Skydance, Paramount, so I don't want to wait for that. And I mean, we don't have the ownership of these platforms. So I just want to spread my risk a little bit and reach more voices at the same time. But yeah, anyway, man, it's like you said, we could do this all day.
We'll do this.
I'm gonna have to come up your way, man, and we got to grab a beer or something and just,
yes, man.
You know what? We should do it. That's what I should do. I should come up to New York. We should do a live.
Yes. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring all my little equipment.
That would be dope.
That's what we should do.
Why not?
Okay. All I need. Okay, folks, I need airfare.
Hey, subscribe to the Journeyman so he can buy
to the
tickets,
Journeyman so I can get to New York.
And we can do a live pod. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, I appreciate you, Marlon, for all you do.
And, hey, same
you
here.
for becoming from the finance world, but standing on morals, and instead of giving in to selfish interests, you really stand up. So,
well, like you said, man, if I sang a little bit different tune, well, me and you wouldn't even be talking.
No,
because I'd have to sell out so hard, and I just, I want my kids to speak to me.
Yeah, no, you gotta try to. That's the line I've been trying to walk and thinking a lot about is rising with your integrity intact. It's a lot faster to sell out. I could go on CNN next time I go on and maybe agree with Scott Jennings or maybe even stay on this side, but yell. Maybe stay on this side, but say some dumb shit just to get clicks. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to. So I'm going to stand with you, man, and try to do stuff on these independent streets. And as I come out of this recalibration period, I'm still doing my lives and my own Substack stuff, but like in the future, man, you already know I'm support whatever you're doing, man.
Oh, hey, and you're going to be a part of it, dude. Don't get it twisted.
Of course.
All right. Well, folks, thanks so much for showing up, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right.
Take care.
Appreciate you guys.